Okay, getting right back into painting Horus. Again, no intro on this video. This is just picking up right where I left off the last video where I had started painting Horus. So here I'm just going in with 2 thin coats Doom Death Black, and I'm just using that to kind of clean up all the overspill that I have with the gold on all of the armor plates. So yeah, this Million Miniature Challenge is pretty close to being finished. I think after this challenge wraps up, probably gonna switch to a different video format and go back to doing more terrain videos. Now, because this is such a big project, I do tend to jump around quite a bit and go back and forth from painting the model to painting the actual base to painting the display base. And so here I'm going back to that base and dry brushing with some Citadel color Flayed 1 Flesh. Yeah, it's just like a really light cream color. It's kind of like a dark eggshell. I'm going to use this dry brush pretty generously over the whole fallen statuary and stairs and most of the rubble here. Now I'm going to get some Eshin Gray and go back to Horus and try to get some pretty good coverage on the wolf pelt. This is probably going to get washes and dry brushing later. Now this is also the first time that I'll be putting paint on the cape. And you can see some of the blue tack there on the inside of the cape that I've been using to keep it attached to Horus, just whenever I'm not painting it. And so now, again, bouncing back and forth, I'm going back to the base. And this time what I'm doing is I'm just using a different dry brush with a flat, more of a wide, flat brush. This way I can get into some of those crevices where I wasn't able to reach with the makeup brush. And then again, Eshin Gray, I need this also for the base. There's a lot of debris and rubble underneath. So I'm going to paint all of that with a pretty heavy coat of Eshin Gray. And at this point, I'm just going to go ahead and do the lip of the base as well. Since this is a display model, I think once I'm finished 100%, I'll go back in and do the lip of the base with black. Typically for an army, I'll do the base the same color as whatever the ground cover on the base is or my display board, so that it all kind of matches more seamlessly. But since this is really going to be for the most part, this is going to be a display model. I'm going to go ahead and do a black lip on this once it's completely finished. to do a little bit of a lighter dry brush with Army Painter's Bony Spikes on the base statue and the stairs. And for this, I'm going to try to kind of go heavier towards the outer edges. I kind of try to stay away from the parts where Horus is going to be standing on the eagle. And with this, I'm not being too careful about going over the gray. The gray is also going to, it's all earth tone, so it's really not that big of a deal, and it also kind of helps blend it in with the stairs. Now I'm going to go back and dry brush the wolf pelt with Administratum Gray. And this is a pretty heavy dry brush. A little bit heavier in some parts to kind of get a little bit lighter, like towards the face. I'm really excited about painting this cape. And I'm starting here with the Army Painter's Scarab Green. This is, I decided I'm not going to paint it like the box art or like Games Workshop's Horus model, where they've done the cape is red and his, I don't know what you call them, tassels and tabards, they're all brown leather. I've decided on mine instead to do those red and paint the cape more in line with the Sons of Horus armor, which is that sort of sea green color. And then here I'm going to glue it on and use some Instaset to get it to take hold pretty quickly. This actually ends up coming apart later on. I ended up having to glue it back on with tacky glue later. I think what it is that sometimes the Instaset it kind of makes the super glue a bit more brittle. So here what I'm doing is I'm layering up colors to brighten up the outer edges of the cape, those outer folds, and just kind of getting lighter and lighter and working my way towards the peaks of those folds. And yeah, like I said, I would do his little leather dangly strips. I don't know what the hell you call those, tabards, I guess. Yeah, I decided to do all those reds. So I'm starting off here with a pretty dark red, and then I'll eventually build that up with some lighter reds. I'll probably give it a wash too with some Agrax Earth Shade. More Eshin Gray. Yeah, so with this, for this, what I'm doing is I'm watering down the Eshin Gray, getting it nice and thin, and using a fine detail brush. And here I'm kind of testing it out. And then, as you can see, the brush that I was using, the tip was a little bit janky. It was kind of wobbly there. So I ended up tossing that brush, getting a different one. And yeah, I'm just kind of practicing doing the little kind of squiggly lines here for the marbling on the statue. For this part, what I'm doing is I'm going through and doing a little bit of a dry brush on all of the gray stone and rubble that I had painted on the base with some actually, I think that's a Ulthuan gray. Yeah, it's much lighter, and a little bit lighter than the Administratum gray. And then I've also got to go through and pick out, there's a lot of metal bits that look like railing and that kind of thing mixed in with all the rubble on the base. So that's what I'm doing here, and I'm just using bolt gun metal. Yeah, so that's it for this video. There's still quite a bit of work left to do. A lot of fine detail work. The claws, bolters, all of the little gems. Still got to finish the head, the face, and glue all that stuff back in. So it's going to be a little while. Hopefully I can get it finished before the deadline. We'll see you on the next one. Cheers.